Right now, uneasy tension and fear continues in Ferguson, Missouri.
20 hours ago, the nation learned a grand jury would not indict a police officer in the shooting death of Michael Brown.
Violent protests happened throughout the night. The fire department had to be called in to put out at least 25 fires, including a pizza shop, a beauty supply store, and a strip mall, and a car lot. A storage facility and a police car were also set on fire.
Gunshots rang out too, but not all of the protests were violent. Some people even tried to stop others from joining in, encouraging them to be peaceful in their protests.
But a lot happened throughout the day today, too. News conferences from several community leaders, national figures. Jay Gray joins us live from Ferguson with the latest. Jay.
Good evening. The damage here overwhelming, worse, many say, than from the riots that occurred just after Michael Brown was killed. More police, more National Guard troops have been moved in, and many here are demanding they act much more quickly if there's violence here again tonight. In this battered, burned out city, the concern is no longer what a grand jury will decide, but instead, what will happen next.
We're just cleaning up the mess from last night, trying to make it look nice again and, bounce back. Hope it don't happen again tonight.
Last night, hundreds poured into the streets of Ferguson, outraged that a grand jury did not indict police officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of unarmed teenager Michael Brown. Police did not directly confront the angry crowd until after squad cars and businesses were burned. And gunfire rang out for much of the night, ultimately bringing in armored vehicles and officers in full riot gear to push the protesters back. In the light of morning, peaceful protests replaced the violence, many marching just like they have every day since Brown's death. His parents stood but didn't speak as their attorneys blasted the prosecutor and the grand jury process.
Raises all kinds of red flags for us in this process. But we're going to hold out hope that at some point justice will be served.
A federal investigation does continue, which could result in civil rights charges. Brown's family could also pursue a wrongful death suit in the case. On the streets now, more National Guard troops have been called in to support police as they prepare for nightfall.
You will see a large police presence, and when crime starts, you'll see us an intervention much more quickly than we did last night.
And so many here hope with much different results. Yeah, now look, I was on the streets last night with a lot of people, many who were here and protesting peacefully for more than 100 days before all this happened. They were not a part of the violence. They're devastated now by what's happened to their community. Live in Ferguson, I'm Jay Gray. Back to you.
What a night there, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Now, new information just out today. The first interview given by the police officer, Officer Wilson. He's the one who was cleared by the grand jury of any criminal wrongdoing in the shooting of Michael Brown. Officer Darren Wilson told ABC News this afternoon he did not execute Brown, but says he feared for his life and was just doing his job. Wilson says Brown reached into his car and grabbed his gun. He talked about how Brown charged toward him and he felt that he had to shoot him. The officer says he's sorry for the loss of life, but as he thinks back to what happened, he would not do anything differently. He says he has a clean conscience over his actions that day.
Well, certainly the streets of Ferguson were the epicenter of all of this, but the decision drew demonstrations from coast to coast, some peaceful, some not. On the left side of your screen, the scene in Philadelphia. On the right, crowds rallying in Los Angeles. In Ferguson, police wore riot gear as unhappy people shouted, "No justice, no peace." Here in central New York, there was a peaceful protest in downtown Syracuse today in the wake of the announcement last night. Our Alex Dunbar picks up our team coverage live from the Federal Building tonight. Alex?
Dozens of people gathered together for a peaceful protest here at the Federal Building this afternoon, hoping to start a community-wide conversation about race, law enforcement, and how what has happened in Ferguson is very relevant right here in central New York. Many of the protesters said they hoped Ferguson could be a turning point, a chance for the country to look at long-standing issues of race and police issues. Some said they hoped the outrage in Ferguson could lead to better conversation between police and minority groups, where they could build mutual respect and trust, leading to better relations in the future. And for some people, issues in Ferguson are not so far away from what happens here in central New York.
We like to think it happens somewhere else. No, it happens here, and it will happen again. It will happen again and again and again until we, the people, all the people, black, white, everybody, gets together, talks to each other, and makes the difference.
And many of the protesters here said that they believe in peaceful protests and were saddened that many of the substantial issues they wanted to have in the national conversation right now are being overshadowed by a small group of people engaged in rioting, looting, and crimes in Ferguson. For now, reporting from the federal building in downtown Syracuse, I'm Alex Dunbar.
Thank you, Alex. Good to see that it was a civil protest here in Syracuse today.
We will continue to follow this important decision throughout the next hour. Coming up just after 5:30 tonight, perspective from Central New York community leaders. We talked to members of the National Action Network and the Syracuse NAACP.
Then at 5:45, an inside look at the evidence the grand jury combed through to arrive at its decision. We'll also talk more about that process and the intention of a grand jury. When the decision came down last night, we were among the first to push it out to you. If you have the CNY Central mobile app, download that for your Apple or Android device. Well, now at 5, we're looking ahead to one of the busiest travel days of the year.
And many people planning to drive or fly to eat their turkey dinner are watching the weather forecast very closely, wondering when the best time to leave would be.
Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Wayne Mahar, who's in right now with what we can expect first this evening. Wayne?
All right, well, this evening is nice and quiet, but we are in weather alert mode because there are warnings and advisories to the south and east of here. First of all, let's start out with a look. City of Syracuse, and you can see folks traveling now, probably traveling on the way back from work, but a lot of folks traveling outside of the area starting tomorrow. This is Route 81 in the city from Adirondack Furniture, and as of right now, no weather issues under a partly cloudy sky. Here's a look at what's going on right now with live triple Doppler radar. A couple of light flurries and sprinkles up here, well up in the north country. Maybe there's a sprinkle or a wet flurry in Cortland County, but for the most part, there are no weather issues tonight. However, tomorrow, especially tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, that's a different story. Already we've got winter weather advisories up for Herkimer County eastbound all the way down through Watsego County, Shenango County, down into Broome County in the southern tier. And when you get into the red out here, the Catskills, that'll be a winter storm warning for you. And you can see if you've got East Coast travel for tomorrow, all the counties, all the places you see in red right here, from eastern Maine all the way down into the central Appalachians, winter storm warning in effect for tomorrow and tomorrow night. Yeah, there are going to be some travel issues for sure. So fastcast then real quick tonight. We're doing okay. Tomorrow clouding up, light snow arriving around here in the afternoon. Low tonight 31, high tomorrow 36. I'll be back to detail how much snow will fall where coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Wayne. You saw it first on NBC3 almost a year ago. New tonight, a Syracuse man is indicted on murder and weapons charges related to the shooting death of 22-year-old Levon Spates in Syracuse last January. Grand jury decided the case against 29-year-old Sean Hunter will go to trial. You may remember a SWAT team had to be called to Roosevelt Avenue in Liverpool, where Hunter locked himself inside a home to hide from police. Police say Hunter shot Spates on Shonard Street in Syracuse. The two were involved in a fight, touched off by an argument Spates had with his girlfriend. Hunter was part of the group she called for help. Spates later died at the hospital. Right now, plans are in the works to retry the first man to be convicted of a hate crime in Onondaga County.
You'll remember Dwight DeLee was sentenced to 25 years for making homophobic comments and firing a rifle into the car of Letitia Green, a transgender woman.
But now DeLee has been released from prison. He got out on a technicality after an appeal. Our Dora Scheidel is following this developing story tonight. Dora.
Well, Matt and Megan, the first man convicted of a hate crime in Onondaga County was released from prison on a technicality. But District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick told us today he plans to bring him back to court and retry the case. Dwight DeLee was convicted of manslaughter as a hate crime in 2009 after murdering Letitia Green. Green was a 22-year-old transgender woman who was sitting in a car outside a party in Syracuse in November 2008. Witnesses told police that DeLee had made homophobic comments before he fired a .22 caliber rifle into the car. The jury convicted DeLee of manslaughter as a hate crime, but acquitted him of the standard manslaughter charge. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison, but his lawyer appealed, saying the jury's verdict was inconsistent, and the appellate division agreed. This week, the New York State Court of Appeals upheld the dismissal of DeLee's conviction, but said the jury may have been misled with confusing instructions. They also said DeLee could be retried, something Fitzpatrick plans to do for what he calls a horrific crime.
It's bad enough that one human being would allegedly kill another human being, but to kill that person because of his particular lifestyle, her particular lifestyle, is very offensive. It's so offensive that the New York State Legislature has designated it a hate crime, and we intend to pursue this as vigorously as we can.
Now, since the case has already been tried, Fitzpatrick says he does not expect any long delays and will urge a judge to set a new trial date as soon as possible. Matt and Megan, back to you.
Dora, thanks. We are following an alert tonight out of Solvay. Police are asking for your help finding a teen missing for about 24 hours. 18-year-old Decron Reed Cruz was last seen wearing a red T-shirt and black gym shorts. Police are asking people in Solvay to check their sheds, backyards, and vehicles. They say he has a medical condition, but they have not elaborated. If you can help, call Solvay Police. Right now, 3 construction workers are recovering from injuries after an explosion at SUNY Cortland this morning. It happened inside a generator room at the college's new $56 million Student Life Center. We sent our Sarah Beth Ackerman to campus today to dig for new information.
Police tape blocks off the Student Life Center at SUNY Cortland after an early morning explosion on campus.
The generator blew out a panel, a venting panel, which is what it's designed to do, which protected a lot of the structural integrity of the building.
But the force of the explosion sent 3 construction workers to Upstate University Hospital. We're told the injuries aren't life-threatening, even though it could have been worse.
That exhaust mechanism for the generator acting as a blowout panel probably saved at least 2 of those individuals' lives.
SUNY Cortland says this building will be the focal point of campus, providing students a place to eat, swim, and gather. It's been under construction for 2 years. Right now, crews search and assess the site for clues and evidence that may help determine what caused the blowout.
Obviously, it was some form of a gas explosion, but what actually happened and how things happened is to be determined.
The university stopped work while the investigators combed the scene. There's no word yet on when it will resume.
We're still hopeful that things won't be sidetracked for very long, but obviously our main concern right now is the workers.
Classes were running as scheduled and no students were involved in the accident. For now, crews will continue putting the pieces together to find a cause. Reporting in Cortland, I'm Sarah Beth Ackerman.
Still ahead on NBC3 News at 5. 1 week ago, Ralph Wilson Stadium was buried in snow. Now almost all of it is gone, but not without some damage. What needs to happen before the Bills can play ball again? Plus,
we're in Rome's cemetery where Francis Bellamy is buried. But the author of the Pledge of Allegiance, not the only one being honored here in December. I'm Laura Hand with the story coming up.
Well, just in time for Sunday's game against the Cleveland Browns. The Buffalo Bills' home stadium will be ready. It's been a big weather story, certainly over the last week. After the big lake effect storm, there were burst pipes there, leakage where walls separate the fields and the stands. These are some issues we didn't even know about back when we were just talking about all the snow that dumped on it. Bills President Russ Brandon, though, said today engineers found no structural issues to the stadium itself. And they continue to clean it up, work on those other problems. That must be section 134, 135.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Those usually are good seats, but they would not have been good seats this past weekend. Of course, the Bills beat the Jets last night. And
that's good news.
They're back home this weekend.
Well, speaking of home, a lot of folks, Wayne, are heading home this week for Thanksgiving. So if people are flying or driving, is there maybe sort of a day to avoid if you can?
Tomorrow.
The day
the
that's
busiest
not
day
good.
Of the year.
Yeah, that's not good because you know here you are. The busiest travel day of the year is tomorrow, and we got a coastal storm working its way on up the coast and up and down the eastern seaboard tomorrow. If you've got travel plans into some of the major airports from Boston to Providence, Bradley, Hartford, New York City area, Newark, Philadelphia, even Baltimore, Washington, that storm is going to spread snow, which may begin as rain, up the coast during the day tomorrow and on into tomorrow night, and that's going to mean some travel problems. So check with the airlines before you head out. Okay, let's start detailing everything for you. First of all, right now, Stanley Law Skywatch overlooking the bridge at Lock 24 in Baldwinsville. From Barnes Memorials and traffic moving along without an issue right now. Skies are partly cloudy. Can see a sliver of the moon over the city right now. Here's a look at live triple Doppler radar, and the only precipitation showing up on the radar right now, a couple of very weak light snow showers mixed with a couple of sprinkles up here in Jefferson County, maybe a sprinkle or wet flurry down in Cortland County. That is about it. But we have a whole lot of advisories and warnings to talk about. Okay, then, as far as we're concerned in the immediate upstate New York area, tomorrow morning through Thanksgiving morning, we've got a winter weather advisory up. Herkimer County eastbound, also down into Otsego County, Cortland County, down into the southern tier, not to mention far western New York around Jamestown. So notice nothing in the immediate central New York area. And if we widen out the view, well, you can see why we're talking about travel issues tomorrow, because in the red, everybody in the red here, from down East Maine, Bangor, down to Portland, areas west of Boston, interior New England, heading on into Albany, down into the Hudson Valley, north of New York City, all this area here, that's a winter storm warning where the weather is going to be the worst. And again, everybody else in the pink, which includes New York City, includes Boston, and includes Philadelphia, winter weather advisories for a little less in the way of snow, but still it's going to be a mess traveling. So we're going to be grazed by coastal storm, light accumulation around here locally, relatively speaking, but major travel issues east of here. And then I think we got a minor moderation in temperatures, temporary, for the upcoming weekend. What are we talking about for snowfall amounts? Generally speaking, snowfall amounts, this isn't the right map. I don't know how this one got on there, but let me just tell you the snowfall amounts around here, the immediate area, an inch or two. You get down into the Catskills, then we're talking about much heavier snowfall amounts in the 6 to 10, 6 to 12 inch category down in the Catskills. Central New York again, we're an inch or two, maybe 2-3 inches southeast of here, heading on down into Otsego County. So yeah, hour by hour then, overnight tonight, we're quiet, temperature around 30. For tomorrow, thickening overcast, light snow arriving during the midday hours, a steady light snow during the afternoon hours, high temperature tomorrow 36 degrees, 7-day weather outlook as we get you on into Thanksgiving Day. On Thursday, breezy with some snow showers, 37. A couple of snow showers and flurries around on Friday at 33. A couple of snow showers ending on Saturday at 41. 48 degrees with a few rain showers on Monday and then turning colder again early next week. Hey, don't forget about our mobile app. You want to check the weather on the go? Make sure you have our mobile app, and you can download that at cnycentral.com. That's the latest from the weather outside.
Soldiers' graves across the country are being spruced up with holiday wreaths this time of year, a tradition that is spread to places, including here in central New York. Right now, our Laura Hand shows us just how much these wreaths mean to the families of soldiers and who is willing to help this holiday season.
It started at Arlington over 20 years ago.
A wreath maker from Maine had extras and trucked them to our national cemetery. This is now an annual Christmas tradition at Arlington, and in the last few years it's spread to local cemeteries, including at Auburn St. Peter and John Church across from Veterans Memorial Park and at Rome's Cemetery.
It's always important to remember our veterans, and this is so important because it brings out the young generation and give them a hands-on experience of putting a wreath on a name, a grave.
This is called the Soldier's Plot in Rome Cemetery. Over 100 veterans buried here, and the wreaths will be placed here on Saturday, December 13th. But there's a lot to do before then.
So far we've had 600 wreaths that have been sponsored. That's at $15 each.
The Greater Rome Utica Military Officers Association has been getting contributions from businesses, but it wants to see more individuals involved too, to remember the vets at 4 area cemeteries, including some from as far back as the Civil War.
There's a few KIAs that were killed at Gettysburg or Fredericksburg that are buried here, and they're all to be remembered.
And part of this effort is also to find information on our long-ago soldiers so that when young people come to the cemetery to put up the wreaths, they have a name, but also a better understanding of our history. In Rome, Laura Hand reporting.
It's incredible that there are veterans of Gettysburg or Fredericksburg, and go back to the Civil War era, buried in these cemeteries.
Yeah, and what a nice honor for them as well.
Yeah, really nice.
Well, for months, we've been hearing from parents and teachers upset with the way the Syracuse School District handles student discipline problems. Well, for the first time, we are going one-on-one tonight with the superintendent, Sharon Contreras, as she responds to the critics. A look at the new code of conduct, how problem students are being handled now, and why she believes it will eventually keep students on track and out of prison. The exclusive interview tonight on NBC3 News at 5:30.
But first, coming up at 5, a new rule aims to get us thinking more about what we're eating.
I think it's a great idea.
If I have a craving for something, I'm probably going to eat it anyway.
Some days I care, some days I don't.
Well said. What information must now be posted at certain restaurants, vending machines, even the movie theater? What's in that popcorn? And how long these places have to comply with the new law?
Then many people think calories don't count on Thanksgiving, but have you ever been curious to see just how things add up? You might be surprised when we reveal how many calories the average person eats on Turkey Day. You're watching NBC3 News at 5. Here's a look at your medical headlines tonight in your health checkup. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration is finalizing new rules now requiring calorie information be clearly posted in food establishments. Menu labeling will apply to restaurants, amusement parks, vending machines, movie theaters, and even some supermarket items. If they're part of a chain of 20 or more locations, they'll have 1 year to comply with the new labeling requirements. Certain alcoholic beverages will also be included.
I think consumers really do want more information about the food that they're eating, and this is responsive to that, and industry has recognized that consumers want this information too.
Some restaurants already adapted the new rules, including all restaurants in New York City.
Yeah, I knew I've seen those signs somewhere. Ever wonder how many calories you eat during Thanksgiving? Well, during a regular dinner, experts say you have maybe 1,000 calories. That'd be a pretty good sized meal. But on Thanksgiving, you eat up to 3,000.
No way.
Good for you. An average person eats more than 1,000 calories before they even sit down. I guess that's just nibbling.
Well, because you're not thinking about the calories. You think about the calories all week long, so you're not really thinking about your health conscious and whatnot.
It's easy to break the calorie bank, or maybe a button or two on your, wherever. Experts say you can put the unhealthy dishes like mac and cheese and sweet potatoes on a side table to avoid those unwanted calories. Of course, you always know where the side table is, too.
Good thing my mom doesn't make gravy, so ours definitely is not going to be 3,000
Yeah,
calories.
well, a couple pieces of pie will put you right back over the top. Still ahead, new at 6 tonight. We take you back to downtown Syracuse, the site of a peaceful protest following the grand jury decision out of Ferguson. Why neighbors hope this jumpstarts a positive conversation about the role of police in our community.
But first, new at 5:30 tonight, an exclusive look at the way the Syracuse City School District disciplines its students now. Concerns mounting for months, parents and teachers upset. Tonight, a look at what's changed. That's next on NBC3 News at 5:30.